Thank you.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short because I know Mark is here to present tonight, but I want to thank Minerva for inviting me. A little bit of background, I have, as she said, been on the Newhall County Water District Board since 2003. Been reelected a couple times there, and then we'll have an election this November. Newhall County Water Districts was the first public agency in town, actually the only public retail agency in town besides Val Verde's District 36. And although we are named Newhall County Water District, it's really because our home was in Newhall, but we are a county water district. So we serve this area of Canyon Country. We serve a lot of Newhall and then also Castaic and Tesoro. We served all of the areas that were not served by private water retailers. So anyone that wasn't served by a developer-oriented retail agency, if there was individual homes coming in that needed water service, we were the water agency in town that served them, and we're also the oldest water retailer in town. And a little bit, I know Al mentioned, some of you may have heard the brouhaha at Canyon Country Advisory Committee. I've had an op-ed in the paper. The main water topic du jour is that Castaic Lake Water Agency, which is a wholesale agency, purchased this stock of Valencia Water at a couple really rushed meetings around Christmas, and our agency and some other entities are contesting that because it's illegal. And let's see why. I have some handouts here on that. That includes the legislation that spells out that that was illegal. Going back to, we were the first water retail agency and the other agencies were private. Many years ago, Santa Clarita Water came up for sale when the owner decided they didn't want to do water service anymore. It was private. They said, we want to sell. Castaic Water Agency did pay higher than market value to get that agency. We were concerned about a monopoly in town and agreed to support the action only if there was legislation put in place limiting their service area to the boundaries, the exact boundaries of Santa Clarita Water. That legislation was AB 134. I have a copy in here. And that is the only reason we went on record in supporting it. And that legislation effectively ended a lawsuit that was going on at the time. And now they're going back on that deal. They clearly want to acquire more agencies in town, which we feel will be bad for the community. Santa Clarita Water's rates have gone up 3 times. The escalated 3 times what other agencies in town have. Santa Clarita's water rates went up about 70% in the last 10 years. Castaic Lake Water Agency's water rates have gone up 250%. You asked about the hardness of the water. The agencies are generally trying to run groundwater because that's 1/10 the cost of state wholesale water. And the groundwater, we're very lucky to have plentiful groundwater in this valley, unlike a lot of the LA basin. So we have not had to have water rationing or reliance on unreliable sources like the Mono Basin. We don't get water from there. We get water only from the Sacramento Delta, which is a somewhat reliable source compared to like Mono Lake, which is LADWP's water. Trying to think what else. I also have some sheets in there on the Newhall County Water District Enterprise Model. It's very popular these days to bash government agencies and inefficiencies at government agencies. We've done a few things. We've added customers while decreasing staff. We have gone to a lot of high-tech features like radio read meters, so we've eliminated the need to drive around and read each meter. They basically go out with a laptop, top of a hill, hit a button, and it populates all the meter readings for the area. We've also prepaid our post-employment benefits for our employees, so we don't have the liability that a lot of government agencies do. And our board of directors is made up, 4 of the 5 of our directors are business owners like myself, so we have been pretty fiscally conservative at our agency and have held rates. We've gone from the highest price in the community to one of the lowest price in the community. So I would like to take any questions on water or water-related issues.
Any plans to upgrade the pipes and the infrastructure in the New Hall area in the near future?
We have capital improvement plans that basically age all the pipes and tanks, like their expected life span. So they're replaced hopefully prior to any bad failures. They are also monitored for leak frequency. So if things show more leaks than usual, they get replaced early. So everything's on a schedule, and we budget for a phased replacement rather than letting things go into disarray. So, I know you had also asked about reclaimed water. Reclaimed water would be water that is treated by the sanitation plants, and a couple issues with reclaimed water. It has to be separately piped because it's not allowed to go in the pipes with regular drinking water. So that limits the area that it can be served to. There is a reclaimed water master plan, and down the road, maybe I think at like 30-year build out, it's still going to be under 5% of our water supply. It's very, very expensive due to the high level of treatment that's needed and the additional piping. So because our groundwater is plentiful, that is really the source that we seek to optimize. The other thing that's a source of water, we don't think of it as a source, but it's conservation. You know, if we do programs like high efficiency toilet rebates, high efficiency water rebates, smart sprinklers, 75% of your water use is outdoors. If you fix your outdoor irrigation, you're going to fix a lot of problems. So investments in that area gain us a lot more water than treating wastewater will, although that will be a source down as we grow in the valley.
Can anything be done about the hardness of the water prior to delivery?
A couple things, yeah. We're actually, there's an integrated regional water management plan that one of the projects is a test, a pilot study to do regional water softening. So that would mean we would soften it prior to going to the consumers. The very, very preliminary cost puts that at about $4 to $5 per customer per month. Of course, those of us that have had to cave in and get a water softener, know a water softener is like probably $35 to $40 a month. And just so everybody's aware, you can have certain kind of water softeners. You can have the water softeners where they remove the tank and replace it every month, and those are $35 to $40 a month. And that really helps because the hardness is a mineral content, and again, that's coming from the groundwater. But it's not a health issue, it's more of a laundry and dishwasher issue.
On recycled water, do you have to buy that from the sanitation district?
Yes, we do, and that's what makes it very expensive right now. So, and the fact that there's not any piping. I mean, if somebody bought it, you'd have to install the purple pipe. So it's going to go in phases, probably in high landscape areas like parks, because you can't really, you can't really drink it, of course.
Can you say something about the chloride discharge issue?
Oh yes, I can say something about that. That's one of my favorite topics. Actually, I'm working with the Valley Industrial Association on kind of a committee on that. The chloride level that has been set, and it's a requirement for discharge from the sanitation plants, is actually one of the lowest in the state, and it is lower than any other agriculture area in the LA basin. it is lower than is protective of fish and wildlife and health levels. So we feel that it was a bit, I personally feel that it was a bit of overkill. The water district asked the sanitation district to go back and look at alternative numbers because the state water supply actually got cleaner recently. The low level was based on high state water numbers. We want them to, redo their calculations. It's unclear if that's happening, and I personally think their numbers were a little too low that they're mandating. So,
I mean, it's on appeal. It's on committee appeal.
it could be appealed, and that's one thing that I think they should do. But right now, the sanitation district kind of gave up and is just marching ahead. But it would be very expensive for residents and extremely expensive for businesses. Businesses already pay thousands of dollars in connection fees, and this will push the connection fees up. It'll deter business in the valley too. I also did a chart. I don't know if I sent it to you. I didn't send it to you. I did it for the Valley Industrial Association. I mean, connection fees for 2,000 square foot restaurant, $300,000. Connection
Wow.
fees, yeah, 200. You wonder why there's no new restaurants?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah, there's no new restaurants because if they go into an existing building, the connection fees were already paid. But if you want to just say, hey, I want to build, my own cafe, $300,000 for 2,000 square feet. It's incredibly expensive. We're also researching if that's comparable to other areas. There's a lot of sticky issues, but it's all an issue of, are the costs fair, and are they fairly allocated based on the load, or are they just kind of trying to soak businesses or restaurants?
Who's charging those fees?
That actually, good question and good segue to something I want to remember to mention.
Wow. I didn't hear
The
the answer.
people in charge of the connection fees are the sanitation district board, which is 2 of our council members and 1 county supervisor. So I don't know, it was Marcia and Lorene.
Right.
Did
Yeah,
one of
it's-
them come off?
Well, yeah, Marcia came off.
Keller.
So it's Kettler. One of the board members has to be the mayor.
Okay,
So it's Keller and Lorraine.
okay, yeah.
And right now, and the third right now is Zeb.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, our council absolutely has influence on that, and they have not been very active. They kind of sit back and go, oh my goodness, what can we do? And one of the things we learn in elected office is you got to count the votes. They have the votes to do whatever they want, and they haven't done things that are favorable for this community. And so my segue, Minerva didn't mention that one of the reasons I'm going to be a little frantic this summer is I have my water board re-election, which will be contested because of this Castaic issue in November, and then I will be running for city council in April of next year, primarily because of issues like that we're not getting good governance in this town. And we need intelligent people that think things through at city council and don't just sit back and go, I'm sorry, it's too complicated, I don't know, we got to protect the strawberries and then move on.
And the
I think
orchids.
that a lot of these issues could be solved, and we need people there that are willing to solve them.
Not just the strawberries, the orchids.
Oh, the orchids, more things that just, yeah, I had op-eds on that too in the paper, but just for the record, because you'll hear this over and over again about the strawberries, there was 1 literature review done. That there was no field studies, no technical studies. A literature review was done that said the only thing that might, maybe be impacted by chlorides was avocados. And there was 1 study that had a low number of like 107. And the literature review itself said this should not be used to set the limits. Field studies are needed. The regional board, when they set the number, said we don't have time for field studies, we're just going to go with that number. That same report said no impact on strawberries with our current water as it is untreated, no impact on nursery crops, as I mentioned, no impact on human health, no impact on wildlife. So I don't know how the strawberries even got into the discussion, but it If it's about anything, it might be about avocados, but even that's a stretch, so.
So your election actually is not until what, November?
Water board is November, and as I know Al heard at one of his meetings, Castaic will be running people to get both BJ Atkins and I off. This water monopoly thing will be easily fixed. If they had 3 votes on our board to consolidate, it'll be automatic consolidation without input from the voters. So right now they have Kathy Colley in support of consolidation. They need 2 more votes to get in support of consolidation.
Consolidating.
So, water agencies.
Which
So-
ones?
So they would try to consolidate Newhall Water with their very expensive water agencies.
If they consolidate Newhall Water, what's left that they need to get to have a monopoly, or is that it?
They would, well, buy probably District 36 in Valverde, but they would have the whole valley. So,
When is the filing deadline for the water board?
I want to say July,
Really? That
June, July.
Okay.
I always worry, and it's actually later than you think. June, July.
Okay.
So, any other water questions? Yeah.
Do you mind if I remind everybody about the VIR?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Right now, or starting actually at the beginning of last year, the sanitation district staff started to put together an environmental impact report that's supposed to analyze all the different methods by which they could comply with the regional water board's standards. That EIR, the preliminary version of that environmental impact report, was due in June of last year, and they've been putting it off month to month ever since. Right now, they're saying that they should be ready to put it out for review in March or April. So when you hear that there are public meetings about this, they're really important to attend, because that's where they're going to discuss what kind of a facility they want to produce to meet that requirement. And while they keep saying no decision has been reached, they also keep saying that they're going to show you plans for a reverse osmosis plant, which would be very expensive. So that's the time to ask questions. That's the time to push back against what they're doing. That's the time to ask about how connection fees are derived. And the more people that are there that show an interest, the higher the likelihood we'll get some real answers and something done.
The other thing that's good to do when you see the EIR, or if you have concerns, is submit written comments, even if you can't go to a meeting. It should be on a website somewhere. I know all of us in the community will be distributing it. So look at the website. It's probably extreme. It's probably going to be, quite thick and not fun reading. But the purpose of the California Environmental Quality Act is to determine the best option with the least environmental impact. And they are required to study, for instance, a no project alternative. And one of the things I'm interested to see is how much they study a no project alternative, because with the chloride treatment that Al is talking about, some of the options they're favoring is a connection to a brine line that is in the LA basin. So that will mean essentially construction through a green belt and a lot of easements and access and major pipelines going down to, let's say, around the Sepulveda Dam area. This is where I think it has to go. That doesn't sound very cheap to me or very environmentally sensitive. They talked about an ocean outfall option. They've talked about trucking the brine, so thousands of diesel trucks driving down the freeway, taking this brine to wherever it would go. And again, I remind everyone that there was one litter. It's funny because Tim Burkhart from Magic Mountain said the exact same thing I've been thinking, which is it's almost as if the sanitation district just wants to justify getting money so they can build something, because it's all smelling a little fishy right now. So definitely, chime in on it, and don't feel that you have to be a technical wizard to chime in. Just, even if you chime in and say, I'm not sure as a community that we really need this, I think that would do a lot of good, so. But feel free to call me or email me, and certainly if you lose my number, call the water district, they'll get me a message if you
I
have
have
any
one
questions.
question. A few years ago, I heard that there was some toxic waste concern by, is it in the Wiley Canyon, that region? There was some aerospace,
Yes,
and
yes.
they were concerned about it seeping into the underground.
Yeah, just really quick, that's
that-
the Whitaker Burmite project.
Whitaker what?
It's called Whitaker Burmite.
Okay.
It's quite large. It's basically the whole triangle from what is now Railroad Avenue, used to be Bouquet, goes over to Golden Valley, the new
Mhm.
Golden Valley Cross Valley Connector, down to Soledad. There was a munitions plant in the middle of that. It contaminated a lot of soil, contaminated the groundwater. We actually have been very lucky in this valley in that there's been a huge insurance settlement that is paying for all of the corrective action. So they're gradually mitigating the soil, and the groundwater, the way that we address the groundwater is they're trying to intercept it with wells. So, it's kind of like an underground river. It flows along in the dirt, and they intercept it in the wells, and you can treat it and remove it. And most of us in the valley are monitoring those wells quarterly, so that we have an early detection. If it creeps out of the capture area, we shut down the well until we can get treatment on it. So there hasn't been any real exposure issue, and like I said, we're luckier than some areas in that we did get insurance money, and the polluters are cleaning it up, unlike some places that have to fight for years in legal battles. So, okay.